Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the newest installment in the Final Destination franchise, Final Destination Bloodlines. I personally really enjoyed this movie. Let's talk about it.
Modern movie review.
Alrighty, so I'm going to start off by issuing a spoiler warning. I don't think that this is a movie that could be ruined via spoilers, but if you know the premise of Final Destination, that's kind of the same premise that happens here, but I do think that there's a fun, mystery element to it, so obviously, if you haven't seen the movie and you might think that this review might ruin it for you, feel free to click off and come back and watch it later. But that being said, I will go ahead and start this video by saying, I've only ever seen the first Final Destination movie in full, and then other than that, I've seen the individual clips of the majority of the death sequences in all of these Final Destination movies, and I think that this movie really is on par with some of the best moments from some of the previous movies. I think that there are a lot of death sequences that are really interesting and really fun. I think that the entire opening sequence, it's like a really long, I want to say maybe 15-minute intro with this big catastrophic event that happens, this giant Space Needle type situation, and I think everything with that is fantastic. I think that the way that they build it up is great, and I really like the fact that it was 15 minutes long or something like that, and literally from minute one there's certain things going on that you're like, oh my god, they're in danger right now. This really seems like a moment where they can die at any given point, and I really liked that about this movie. Is almost the entire length of the movie there's this uneasy feeling in your stomach that oh my god, anything could happen at any given moment, and that stress and that anxiety that this franchise has given people for generations. I said generations, I think the first one came out in 2000, so in the last 2 decades, my bad. I really enjoyed this movie. I think that they did such a great job with building that suspense, and then on top of that, being very unpredictable. Obviously, in the opening sequence, there's a lot of very obvious, okay, well, this is going to happen, so this is how some people are going to die, and then, okay, this thing is probably going to happen, and that'll lead to more people dying. And because of that, we get a lot of really interesting, great moments, and a lot of really gory death sequences early on in the film. And I like that because the first event is in such a big giant open area, there are so many different ways that people die, and it is very interesting to watch. And there's one specific character who, if you've seen the movie, you would know, oh, that's right, I'm doing spoiler review. You can know about this. There's a little kid who's being a little shit the entire movie, and what's it called? That first 15-minute opening, and every single time it cuts back to him, he's doing some other thing and being a total prick, and he actually kind of incidentally is the reason why everybody dies. And when he finally dies in this movie, it's so satisfying. It is the most entertaining thing ever, and a lot of people have been complaining about the death sequences in this movie kind of feeling like Looney Tunes-esque. The way he dies is actually Looney Tunes with a piano crushing him, and it is so satisfying because this guy who's been a little shit the entire time is finally... and it's so funny. But yeah, overall, I think that this movie is weird in a sense that, I wouldn't necessarily say this movie is scary. I think that in some of the previous ones, there's been a lot of moments where it's okay, this feels like something that could actually happen. It'll make you feel uneasy. I do think that all of the murders in this movie are kind of goofy and over the top. So if that's something that would set you off, you might not like it. But personally, I thought that was part of the fun in it, is some characters are dying in the most unorthodox ways imaginable, and I think that it's fun. I think that the gore for the most part is fantastic. As somebody who grew up on Mortal Kombat and constantly seeing fatalities and stuff like that, a lot of times when I go to watch horror movies like the Terrifier movies and stuff like that, there'll be sequences where people are like, oh my god, that's so gory, that's so graphic, I can't imagine they did that, that's so crazy. And I will usually go and see it, and I'm just yeah, that's okay. No, it's not anything crazy. This movie is one of the first times in a while that I've seen gory sequences that I'm actually oh god! And I like that. That is something that is very exciting to me about it. I know a lot of people are complaining because a lot of the death sequences are CGI, but I genuinely think that the CGI is pretty damn good, and it gets to a point where it's in some of these, yes, it's CGI, but also I couldn't imagine them doing it better with practical effects, with specific makeup artists and stuff doing the prosthetics that they've done in some of the previous movies. I think that the death sequences here look good, look professional, and since the things leading up to them are as good as they are, that quick 10 seconds where they just it looks good, and I enjoy it. Overall, on top of just talking about the death sequences and the way that it builds up and some of the dark humor in this movie, which there is a lot of, overall characters, there's not much going on. There's this family dynamic, and the one character who is kind of our main character here is kind of the goody two-shoes of the family, and she's the one who's just we got to do these things or we're all going to die or we're going to be in danger, and oh my god. And because she's such a, proud of herself, confident young woman who's got to be the leader of the family, she's constantly kind of we got to take this stuff seriously. This is this thing that's going on, and she's trying to like plan, how they're going to keep people safe and trying to figure out like, okay, well, if this person died, this is the next person to die. And I think that they don't really go far enough into the lore of the Final Destination stuff, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of stuff in the trailers that kind of lead up to this thing where you're like, okay, there's going to be this fancy book. There's going to be like ways to like avoid death and escape death. They're going to go on like a little road trip to try to escape death. And there's a lot of elements that seem like, okay, this is going to be something new and fresh, and it's going to actually like, they're going to try to find a way to survive, and that's going to help you like get attached to the characters. And in my opinion, it really doesn't. By the end of the movie, you're still not super duper attached to any of them. Like, I do think that the main sister and brother, they have a connection that's kind of close, and I think that it mostly just works for me because like, as somebody who has an older sister, I can kind of see myself a little bit in the younger brother, and then it kind of like connects to me a little more than I think the average viewer would probably connect with it. And I think that that is always a problem that these movies are going to face. You don't have a whole lot of time to spend with these characters, and going into them that probably all of them are going to die, so it is harder to get attached. So that's where good casting decisions come in. I really love the brother with the septum piercing, who I've seen in all the trailers and stuff like that. I think he was in The 100. I could be wrong. He's been in some show or movie that I've seen in the past, and I have really liked him from that. And he brings such a fun energy to this movie that I absolutely love. Like, I think that when you have a movie that's about like slashers and like, oh, everybody is going to die, having that one character who's like really not afraid of death and is just kind of like, okay, you guys are taking things way too far, is fun. And I think that his death sequence in the movie is probably one of the best death sequences in the entire franchise. I think that the way he dies is incredibly cool. The way that it's like slowly is really interesting, and then the overall final visuals of it are so good, and I really liked that. And I also like the fact that it was kind of like an unpredictable thing where it's like leading into his death, they just got done having a conversation with Tony Todd's character, who gave us an incredible monologue and speech in this movie about how your time is limited and you should really be spending it with the people that you love and trying to embrace life. And I thought that was beautiful. That was an incredible moment in this otherwise relatively silly movie. But they just got done having that conversation where they found out that one way that you could survive is by killing somebody else, and then you get to take the rest of their lives. So when we get to this sequence where this brother who has all the piercings is about to die, I'm like, oh my god, and the other brother's going to be safe, and it's all going to be fine because the other person died. So now he gets to kind of like take how much ever time he had left in his life, and then the other brother also gruesomely dies. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so that was a great moment. I think that that's probably the best murder sequence in the entire film. I think the scene of the girl getting crushed in the back of a garbage truck, that was graphic. They did a really good job with those visual effects. I was very uncomfortable by that. That was good. And overall, I just really enjoyed this movie. I love horror movies that when the end, it's like over, there's kind of this uneasy feeling with you. And then usually what'll happen is it's not actually anything bad happening. It's usually just like they're paranoid. But in this movie, the like ending of the movie, the last like scene or so, you're kind of having this moment of like everything feels uncomfortable. There's a lot of moments that feel very deja vu-esque, and it's like, why is everything still going on? It definitely feels very uncomfortable. And then the final sequence happens, and the two characters who we were like, yay, they survived, die in a very way that I think is like paying homage to the rest of the movies. I think is great, but I liked that. I thought that was solid. And yeah, just overall, I had a really good time with this movie. If you want to go watch people die in ridiculous ways, go watch this film. It's fun. I think that the dark humor in here is fantastic. One of my favorite moments is the two brothers walking around the hospital after finding out that they could kill somebody to take the rest of their life. And they're just like, but how do you even know how long somebody has left? And then they walk by a nursery and they both look at it for each other. They kind of have like a little moment of like, that would be wrong. We can't do that. No, but no. And it's just, that was so funny to me. I literally started dying, laughing out loud. That was bad. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this movie. Had a really good time with it. If I had to give it a rating, I was going to give 1 to 100. I'm going to give this one a solid 86 out of 100. I think that this movie just knows its audience really well. And as somebody who wanted to go see this movie for ridiculous over-the-top death sequences and kind of dark humor, I got what I wanted out of this movie, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Bow. Bow.